be on camera, but in case we do not put me on camera, we are just going to go straight into picks and bans. Now, in case you're wondering why it's just me talking, why I'm not on camera, we're still waiting for Wolf to arrive, and as soon as he does, we'll be throwing him in here as quickly as we can. So just to get that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into our draft for game number 1 of GLuck versus Feliz. Of course, we'll have our second series of Ballistics versus KSD a little bit later on, so definitely worth sticking around for that. But for GLuck versus Feliz, these are two teams that have really struggled this season. GLuck, they finally managed to turn it around in a 6-3-2 set over Supernova, and so they come in to this game with that one elusive thing that Feliz could never achieve, and that is a series win. It's been a real struggle for Feliz, but I'm excited to see if at the very end of their season they can turn this around. So let's see what the draft looks like. It shouldn't be all too strange if you're keeping up with HGC Korea. If you aren't, then just to go over things, Genji, permaban, no one's going to get a chance to play that hero unless it's some sort of weird game of chicken. Raynor is still very strong, but takes a comp to specifically keep him safe. You see him die a lot otherwise. So some teams do ban Raynor in the first rotation, but a lot of the top tier teams actually leave him open for the second ban phase, so that if he is picked early on, they can then use that as a weakness instead of a strength and then draft the composition against it. It is a Raynor ban here from GLuck because I think between the teams, maybe the bottom 3 or 4 teams, he's a little bit too strong to let go through the draft phase because he can get a little bit out of control unless you're very good at executing a comp to take him down. So the Raynor ban does come through like we all might have surmised. The Malfurion first pick is not a big surprise. With Phoenix ban, you're expecting something like a Blaze or a Yrel. And even though Yrel is kind of the alpha and the omega of solo lanes, lately we've started to see a little bit of a change away from that. Because while she is just absolutely the best space cow out there, or space sheep, space goat, I'm not sure exactly what animal we're calling her. Draenei, there we go. But Blaze actually offers a little bit of utility. Actually, a lot of teams recently have been going for a Dahaka first pick or early on in the draft just because the global that it offers maybe a little bit of extra utility. Even if Dahaka loses against Yrel one-on-one, the global utility is a little bit too much. But look at what Feliz has done here. They've gone ahead and drafted a Garrosh along with a Tracer. Now, at least if I remember correctly, especially at MSB, we used to see Tracer-Dar, the Tracer-Tassadar combo. I haven't seen that come out. I think we've only got maybe one of those so far this split, so I'm not expecting that to come through in the latter half of the draft, but just some things to think about as I try to make sense of all of this. The hammer ban there, really actually effective because I think teams are starting to view hammer as a counter, or I don't want to call it a hard counter, but like a soft counter to Garrosh, just because it's a great way to kind of poke him down before he really gets a chance to go for what is a very effective engage. So banning the hammer just so that it can't be drafted here in the second half. And, with a Yrel ban, that does make it a little bit easier for Blaze in lane. You're not going to really struggle all that much. We've actually seen quite a few Karazim just straight up bans in the first half of the ban phase, so getting through all the way down here, that's a little bit like the last pick Malfurion. You don't really expect to see that all that often, but it is still very, very popular, very common, very powerful. It just need a little bit of extra damage. I mean, Hanzo's capable of crazy bursts, don't get me wrong, but I'm still waiting to see what the big DPS choices are going to be, and oh, there it is, a leaning Sonya to round out the comp there for Tomb of the Spider Queen, or for Feliz on Tomb of the Spider Queen. One more left for GLuck. Now this is where I start to get a little bit excited, because you can save something that synergizes with this until the very end. I don't know exactly what to expect, to be honest, but I'm expecting something that now that GLuck has all of this information, okay, it's going to be a Greymane. Not quite a blast from the past. We've seen that come back from time to time. Definitely not the most popular when you need that carry assassin, but still very, very good, very versatile, and I think that's why probably Greymane will be just about always viable. because he just kind of does a little bit of everything. He's got wave clear, engage, disengage, mobility, a little bit of everything. So those are your drafts for game number 1 of GLuck versus Feliz, a battle of the bottom of the pack. This definitely has ramifications when it comes to what these teams are looking for going forward. Of course, the Crucible is something that they both come through, but want to avoid again, and that's always been a struggle for teams towards the bottom of the standings here in HGC Korea. Neither one of them wants to go back, and I think this is maybe where Feliz can turn their season around. Of course, they have not been able to pick up a series win just yet, so against GLuck, they will certainly have their hands full. Because GLuck kind of did what it's not that I doubted them, I never doubted them, but it was going to be a struggle if they were going to pick up a win. And they did. It was a very hard 5-game series, one of the first and only ones that we had here in HGC Korea for part 1 of Phase 2. But they were able to take a narrow 3-2 victory over Supernova off of, in part, a kind of a throw in the 30th minute of their second game of their series versus Supernova. And once you go back and watch that, you start to realize, wait a second, you can't sleep on GLuck. They have had a lot of struggles this part, but they do have what it takes to come out on top. And especially against Feliz, you know, I was joking with GLuck earlier on that when these two teams face off against each other, we were going to force at least one of them to win, which seemed very difficult for both of them. But I think GLuck has really kind of stood out from the bottom of the pack. Actually, I think has a higher score, depending on the outcome of this game. They could actually have a higher score than Supernova, who started off with a win this season, but, or I say season, but I mean this part 1 of Phase 2, just so that's clear. They started off part 1 of Phase 2 with a win. It looked very promising. And then they really fell off immediately after that. So I'm still not sure what to expect from GLuck. This could be Feliz's opportunity to pick up a win, but let's actually talk about the game and see how this is going to shape up. It is Li Ming versus Blaze. So Blaze definitely not going to be looking for a whole lot of kill potential, unless, you know, maybe a random gank comes through and the Jet Propulsion lands. I can see that happening. But for the most part, he should be able to sustain through everything, and it won't be too big of a struggle. And the top lane is just going to be DPSs going at it for as long as there are actually heroes in that lane, depending on whether it's Grey Main or I guess now Hanzo as he rotates up. Keeping an eye on what the top lane does look like. I think Aimer is just going to try to clear it out as quickly as possible and then rotate. But, you know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but that should be a lane that Hanzo is able to do pretty well in, especially if it's a 2-on-1 with a continual trade with Grey Main. So they trade back and forth, and depending on where Maizen is needed, he is going to go. And now finally, okay, I was wondering, Dudu's got to switch out of that lane, right? That's where we're supposed to see the Sonya. And Sonya should function pretty well there, but to talk about maybe a little bit of the bigger picture now that things are kind of coalescing here in the mid lane, Asgard is going to come up here and is fighting against Hanatan. It will not be a fair fight. So Hanatan's pushed back. GLuck actually converge here and are starting to deal a lot of damage, thanks to a little bit of help from that camp, giving their minions a little bit of extra resilience as they look to push in on that mid lane wall. And that's thanks in part to kind of zoning Sonya out from being able to rejoin her team there. A little bit of extra pressure can go a long way, not only when it comes to the structure damage, but especially when it comes to turning in gems. And, you know, neither team really has a whole lot. They're both at 28, so not enough to get a turn in. We're only at 3 minutes into the game. But eventually, if we see the same thing over and over again as the game goes on, it will become more and more impactful. Big rotation up top, and Aimer reads that situation perfectly. And I think the big triumph of GLuck in their series over Supernova, which I'm going to keep referencing because it was so, I guess, iconic? Not iconic, so surprising in a lot of ways. The big victory there for GLuck is they finally figured out how to, if they have the vision, out-rotate their opponents, which is not something we saw from them at all at really any point this season. So, you know, it's something that they're developing, they're still working on, but they've shown some strength there. So they do actually get a little bit of a faster rotation up top, but we're starting to narrowly approach the point where we could see our first turn-ins. In fact, for GLuck, they do actually have enough, and I guess now for Feliz, they do have enough for the first wave of web weavers. Say that 5 times fast. To come in. So it's going to be it's going to mean an increased emphasis on how many of these turn-ins we can get, and I think we are looking just about for either team really to start off with that first tribute. So let's see if Maizen can go for it. I don't think realistically that's going to be possible. They will take either the elimination of a hero or the win of the team fight, and it looks like GLuck has always been a little bit ahead when it comes to either shoving out their waves, the rotations, and something cleaner. And so if they can find a pick or really any tiny little advantage like an engage here onto Hanatan, the jet promotion lands, and the last hit comes through from Asgard, burninating the countryside on the bottom half of the map and taking a kill and potentially even this turn-in. They get it, and that's a big win for GLuck as they will have the first wave of web weavers. Somebody keeping track of how many times I have to say that this game to come through on their side. So, this Tomb of the Spider Queen can be a little bit snowballing. You get the first wave, you crush through not only the outer walls, but maybe you take a fort, and then you keep coming back through, especially if you can continually deny turn-ins from your opponents. Now, Feliz actually do have quite a few gems turned in, so I think that denial will be very hard-pressed. But certainly if they do get a big enough experience lead from these web weavers to push through to get enough XP to hit that level 10, get those heroics, you can absolutely start that snowball rolling very early on. Through the web weaver, Aimer going deep, and Maizen gets taken out. Aimer really kind of putting the team on his back, although on the other side, we got KCB to try to turn that around just a little bit. OJ coming around, not actually wanting to force a fight or anything, but I think he might have the fight brought to him. Tanky and low health, but is he tanky enough? Of course, Liu doing what all Malfurions do best, and that is saving low health members, especially when they get increasingly tanky. But now Overlord's coming in for round 2, and there's no healing thanks to the double stun. An insane engage, and we've seen this combo of Blaze Anubarak quite a bit, but this time it's Blaze ETC, and it looks almost the same way. Very, very impressive, and I'm just really, really excited to see it be working so well. So we have a small surprise coming in here in just a second. I don't want to spoil it, but you guys may be noticing that I am the only one talking, and I think momentarily that may no longer be the case.
I have traveled across the city, Reed. I have arrived. I'm here. I'm ready to catch Tears of the Storm.
I'm so excited, Wolf.
I just ran through traffic literally to cross the street fast enough to make this first game. But I made it. I didn't die. Everyone stared at me and looked at me weird. Cars honked at me, but I made it. But you pointed out in the draft that we're going to see an interesting pick that fits the composition. The Greymane comes up as that hero. I was listening to your cast.
I was just saying, Wolf, you can take like a little bit of a breather here if you want. There's that phrase from the movie Labyrinth, talking about how long and far his journey to get here. Well, let's take a brief break from my analogy to talk about the team fight, which is going to be very one-sided here for GLuck as they find a huge pickoff. I guess it's an even 1-for-1 trade, but it looked better in the end.
It could have been worse for GLuck. Obviously, the mosh pit did get kind of shut down there, but they were still able to turn it into a kill at the end of the day. Speaking of kills, Overlord.
Okay.
That's not the Greymane pick you want right there.
Yeah, I think Overlord actually leads the league in deaths at this point. So, or I think he leads the league in least time spent alive.
Shortest lifespan, I guess. Is probably the best way to put it.
Lifespan, yeah. There's truly no great way to put that. But he's been struggling when it comes to that life bar.
He's got the highest time spent in the respawn.
Wow, you're just thinking of all the different ways to characterize this. But yeah, he has been more of an underlord this part, and I mean this is the last chance to really have to see him turn that around. So GLuck got the first turn in. Now it's Feliz's turn to try to turn that turn in around as they push with their wave of web weavers. That's the third time I've had to say that so far.
Well, the cool thing about Feliz's push is they've got a Sonya, right? So they can actually push bottom really hard, and that's of course going to force the Blaze rotation down. So not just getting a lot with this. And they have Li Ming, so they've got like really good poke. The wave clear on the side of GLuck is also good, but the fact that they have a really strong pushing soul laner is very helpful, and this bunker is not going to last long.
No, they dive Asgard here, and that might not look like a great idea, but with a nice pulse bomb that actually gets double damage, chipping Roxer a little bit. They not only pick up the Blaze kill, but they successfully dive through the fort and will take it down off of that huge Sonya push with the Web Weavers down bottom.
And so Feliz kind of taking back control of the reins of this game with that Web Weaver. And as the last one falls here, you could see they have exactly enough for a back-to-back turn-in. So this is actually a really big turning point for them, where they could not only, you know, as we mentioned, just kind of take back control of the game, but even take a massive lead if they can double this. Roxer needs to be careful and does not want to get caught by the Garrosh combo here. He may just end up dying for it.
Still at a sliver of a talent disadvantage, but that's not really going to be what is so impactful for Feliz. They have the momentum, and I think they actually should be able to hold on for this turn-in, and indeed they do get the second turn-in in a row. So a big shift in momentum after GLuck took the first one and got up to heroics. Feliz are really turning that around, evening up the experience, and now coming back with another wave of, or GLuck are evening things up.
Yeah, GLuck is able to take this one, but
wow,
they're also going to lose Roxer if they're not careful here right after they got this turn-in. They were able to barely eke it in, you know, and get that turn-in to kind of turn things back into their favor.
Oh, Mycin, poor Mycin, he barely survived. Wow.
He gets out. But, like, that was a close call because everything you say about Feliz, like, really turning things around and solidifying their lead, what we were discussing, like, they prevented that. They stopped this from occurring, and now this turn-in could get them multiple forts. We're getting later in the game, we're getting that scaling starting to hit into effect where these forts just don't take that much abuse anymore. Nice toss here onto Asgard.
Yeah, Asgard is going to be a little bit more resilient there, but with still another pulse bomb coming through, does just barely survive. Very crucial that he does do that so that he can get the fountain, come back, and continue this push up the mid lane.
Well, this is a pretty disastrous situation for Feliz now. They're on the cusp of really taking this game and making it theirs, taking a 16 advantage. Now they're losing all their forts. The top keep wall is taking damage. And GLuck has, you know, some really nice pushing power with this Greymane. Not only does Greymane have good wave clear, as you were kind of pointing out in the draft, but he also has just a ton of auto attack damage on single targets once he activates his W. The attack speed is just insane, so he will burst down these forts very quickly. This one just barely survives. We had a little bit of that the past 2 days.
That's true. We've seen quite a bit of either heroes or forts or keeps just barely surviving, but I think the biggest thing to talk about is how close it was to Feliz getting that second turn-in a row and really solidifying their lead, as is GLuck gets the turn-in, and they really even things up here and take a lead even, especially when it comes to 16 being very near.
Rocks are just looking to prevent this big turn-in, but they have 0 gems plugged in right now, so it's going to be, you know, you got to be cautious at this point, because if you try to look for a turn-in, you try to be greedy, you're going to die, you're going to find yourself in a worse situation where you're going to lose your gems. Luckily for them, GLuck doesn't have enough for a complete turn-in yet, so they can try to distract in lane and then maybe sneak in a big one like Aimer was trying to do just then, but like how patient they're being. Trying to take a hard engage before 16 would be ideal, but it's easier said than done with a Garrosh comp, because Garrosh is great at engaging, great at initiating, but because he has such limited range to do so, if GLuck just kind of plays around and plays at a distance, it's very difficult. So they're trying to use OJ's positioning here to get a turn-in. Unfortunately, just not quite successful yet. Yeah,
Asgard poking out there. And actually, if you remember, Aimer's Tracer actually tried to assassinate Mycin's Hanzo earlier.
Yeah.
He had like 20 gems on him and actually was able to get the turn-in now. But oh, Roxer actually gets into the bunker in time? Did I see that correctly? Yeah, just barely.
Just
Uses
barely.
that perfectly to survive and to turn that around, killing off Garrosh, which is absolutely gigantic because he is so difficult to take down, and really counter-engaging that perfectly.
Yeah, so GLuck solidifies their position now, 2 gems away from carrying enough for that continued turn-in. As you can see, they just got it. They have really good wave clear with the Hanzo and the Greymane, so they continue to utilize it. Greymane went for the explosive arrow on 4, so that, I mean, sorry, not Greymane. It'd be cool if he had that, but no, Hanzo goes for the explosive arrow on 4. And as you can see, whenever waves push out like this, they're just able to get so much free soak. They get the Web Weaver push. This one could threaten, you know, multiple keeps. Feliz does have 16. They just need to play it cool. Look for a defensive engage, I think, with the Garrosh, because it's go for the throat as well for Greymane.
Yep.
When he does go for the engage, you can grab him and counter him, even make it into a trade, or maybe if he just doesn't quite get the kill, doesn't quite get the reset, then you're able to just you know, toss him in and turn that into an opportunity for you. But I think Feliz should otherwise just kind of weather the storm.
Oh, Rockstar, I was a little bit worried he was going to be the one to get picked off here. And even Hanaton playing that very far forward. OJ is pretty tanky, but down to half health as his keep wall gets pressured. And of course, the bigger push is actually maybe even top lane. Nobody at that point had rotated up from Feliz.
Now at bottom too, like bottom and top, you know, haven't really been dealt with.
I mean, how are they going to split enough? This is just GLuck pulling them apart thanks to this Webweaver push. And now, I mean, it's just so much easier for GLuck to rotate around, take out the middle keep wall, and now look to take this bottom keep as they look to go in. Aimer trying to get back to the back line for an assassination onto Maizen, only gets him down to half health with that pulse bomb. The bunker does come down to keep him safe. I mean, GLuck are really committing to take down this keep.
Overlord going all the way into this, even in Oregon form, to kill the keep. The keep is down, so Feliz need to be careful about trying to look for the engage. They don't have that safety net anymore. They do escape. Had they chased further, they might have found themselves on the wrong side of a Dragon's Arrow. But huge win here for GLuck. They push themselves not only to lane advantages here with the catapults now pushing bottom, but map control as well as that potential 20 boss take. And all they have to do now is just continue to delay Feliz on turn-ins and look for picks if they actually commit. Here's a Mosh looking for such a pick.
Yeah, Baseball coming through and trying to disrupt everything. Asgard even coming through, and the contribution from a Dragon's Arrow across the map almost. Lots of CC just changing up front. Seven-sided coming through as an attempted
Overlord lives!
disengage. Somehow Overlord and Rox are both alive. How long will they be able to stay that way? Not very is the answer, and Feliz actually turned this around in a big, big way. Dudu's being an optimist looking for the and one at the end of that, but a big win for Feliz.
That was very close there for Feliz, though. If he had lived, I mean, he lived for so long, but if he had lived just a little bit longer and actually got his go for the throw off, they got the free reset and then got a second go for the throw, he could have gotten 2 kills there, gotten another healing wave from Karazin once his W came back up. It was a close call there for Feliz. A really good play, actually, by Maizen there at the end of the day to nearly make this into a very explosive fight, but was shut down. And now Feliz can look to kind of clean up these forts. The Webweaver in the bottom is going to help relieve the bot pressure, and it may eventually threaten to keep ball, but that's a long ways away. But this is Feliz getting an opportunity to catch up to 20. And that's, you know, they're going to get these forts. It doesn't really feel like a big win, but the experience they do gain from those forts actually does add up. And they can even threaten Maizen again here.
And Aimer has been really on point when it comes to dropping assassinations on the back line. Specifically Maizen, he's always had his number. But to Maizen's credit, he has done a remarkable job at surviving almost every time. I think all but once did get blown up early on. But for the most part, he's doing a good job staying alive, and GLuck are doing a good job realizing, hey, okay, we'll give Feliz these outer forts, let them catch up in XP, still feeling confident that they'll win the next fight afterwards.
GLuck does have this mosh pit in 10 seconds to look for an engage. It's always a threat of a mosh that you have to think about for Feliz. So Rockstar, he hasn't had too many impactful ones, unfortunately, yet this game, usually interrupted or he's blown up before the team can capitalize. He got that one trade right after, you know, I arrived here to the studio, but Feliz just going to calm down, back off, look for back-to-back turn-in here on the bot. Look at that, 44 gems I think it was I saw onto the Sonya here. Looking for that turn-in is Hanaton. Nearly gets it, but is interrupted.
Oh, that was so close. And another reason Blaze is just so great on this map. I mean, with Blaze Hanzo, realistically, you're going to have a fight if you want to get a turn-in. Now, a lucky turn-in does go down there. I think 18 coming in from, was that Sonya? I didn't see exactly.
No, not Sonya. Sonya had 44, so I think it might have actually just been OJ. No, it was Dudu, actually. Okay, so Dudu gets it. At least that's what it appears to be.
But still a third of the way there, and actually on the other side, GLuck able to get a big turn-in as well. They back off and go for the boss.
Yeah, this should be approached by Feliz. They don't have 20 yet, but I don't think they can afford to let this boss get a second keep. But you know what? They're just going to let it happen. They're going to look for the defensive posturing instead because they just couldn't quite get 20. And I mean, they have Li Ming, so they have good poke, but with the wave that's going to come with this, it's going to be rough. I mean, they got the Webweaver turn in as well, but the Webweaver turn is going to kind of be I just want to say completely mitigated by this boss push.
Well, the other thing is that the Web Weavers aren't really challenging any objective. Like, they're all kind of in the middle of the map when they come out. Whereas if you look at the boss push, he's just going to push right up to the Web Weaver that's in front of him and won't really be that difficult to deal with. So the boss gets taken out, right? But this allows GLuck to take out every single Web Weaver on the map.
That's right.
They never get a chance to really threaten any keep, and there's still that looming down on the bottom half of the map that is going to continue to make that wave push out.
You've essentially, with this play, even though, like, I don't know if Feliz had any other options, but the situation here, at the end of the day, when the dust settles, is that Feliz just gave GLuck a free defense of Web Weavers as well as a little bit of safe experience, and they, while clearing, also had that bot wave push. 3 catapults are heading now towards the core. Should be 4 when that wave from the main does get out there. So Feliz is kind of on a clock with this last Web Weaver. This is probably not going to get a keep. There's so much poke with Hanzo, Greymane to deal with this. Explosive arrows, cocktails. Just shutting this down, they have so much poke right now. Li Ming does too, but it's limited. They need to be careful because Bolt is up here for ETC. Rockstar could look for a nice Bolt into Power Slide. And also, the other threat was that GLuck could look to just continue to dismount them, and then the core would start to take a massive amount of damage. Right now, they're just going to take the fact that they know Feliz has to go clear this to take control of both this camp as well as the neutral camp in bottom. Not much else they can do right now. I mean, the map is pretty dry in terms of objectives, and even because of their bot push, like, it's hard to even farm gems right now for GLuck, so going to take this neutral camp solo for Asgard. They're going to farm these mid gems. And neither team does have a turn in, so this is going to be probably one of the most passive moments of the game we've had since the start.
Yeah, another turn in actually puts Feliz with the gem lead as far as that goes. I guess that's one of the benefits of having a wave push into your base.
Yeah.
It kind of just donates you the gems right there.
You get free soak, you get free gems on this map in particular. Okay, I'm not looking for an engage. You already used a spear.
Yeah, I mean, it took a little chunk out of Asgard, but nothing actually that impactful. I think the bigger object is either trying to zone out this tribute, or potentially even you'll look for a flank. I saw Aimer coming through, and I was like, if he gets a chance to get onto Maizen again, he is absolutely going to take that.
Oh, definitely true. He is looking for that right now. Even Overlord could be a juicy target.
Maizen actually just walked towards OJ because he wanted to position away from Aimer in the back. So playing this very, very carefully. And oh, Maizen gets chunked there. He's going to go in and look for that pulse bomb, but can't find it. There's a mosh on to 2. Locks down the front line, but will there be enough? 7-sided coming through, trying to blow up Hanatan. He gets taken very low and does finally go down. Overlord there with the last hit, and even OJ doing his best to tank up the backline, but even he will go down in the end.
Looks like this is just going to be the end of the game as Liu falls. Rockstar chases Dudu and Aimer away. That will be enough for a turn-in. They may not even need it. They could just march down bottom to end the game. Heals coming through here just to make sure they have enough health to finish it so that Dudu can't get any resets off. The interrupt on the mosh pit just wasn't there. I guess he didn't have Wave of Force, or maybe he missed it. I have to go back and watch the replay, but there was just no interrupt. And finally, Rockstar does get the big mosh pit. It's the one that ends the game here. Core under attack. There's nothing Feliz could do, and it looks like GLuck is going to take game number 1. Dominant fashion here. Well, I'd say dominant fashion in the end. The end game, they had total control. They had the catapults in the bot lane. They were able to take the boss. The the early mid game was a little bit less dominant from them. They certainly did have their ups and downs, but they were able to regain control of the Web Weavers in that moment that you pointed out, where it was so close for Feliz getting the double. And it didn't happen in the end. That was the closest they were going to get to taking a win when they almost fully took control of the game.
It was very close, but in the end, GLuck does prevail. I would say that, it's tough to call when you do compare these teams just because they have both struggled so much. But towards the end, especially in their win over Supernova, GLuck have looked a little bit improved. And so them coming out on top here does kind of show that that is continuing. If you look at the structure damage there from Maizen, almost hitting 200k. It was close, but definitely a key part. With only 1 death, even though he kept getting dove by Aimer at every opportunity.
Yeah, and Aimer walks away with 0 deaths. Very impressive as well for a Tracer against a comp like this that has such great CC in the in Asgard and Rockstar, the ETC and the Blaze. Or said that backwards in terms of their IDs, but
respectively. Right.
Respectively, not what I said. Respectively, the opposite. So yeah, I mean, it was really well played on both sides, though.